Let's get the opinion now of Fiona McAnena, who is Director of Campaigns at Sex Matters. Fiona, I mean, why do we keep having to have transgender everything shoved down our throats? I don't mind if people are non-binary. Let them get on with what they like. It doesn't need to be on the Fourth Plinth, does it?
Well, I think you speak for a lot of people there, Alex. People are sick of this endless promotion of gender ideology. And if they just want to live their lives, I don't know why we have to big it up all the time. I think there's another problem with this, which is this false narrative of transgender victimhood. You know, trans people are not at risk in the UK. It's one of the safest places for them to be, safer than women and girls, in fact. But we're constantly told they are at risk. And then that is used as a pretext for them to access women's spaces. And so we're told, oh, trans women, that is men who identify as women, are not safe in men's changing rooms, men's toilets, and that's why they have to come into the women's toilets. And as we know, where that gets us to is that any man can walk into the women's toilets. So I think that's why people find this all a bit much.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's not safe, and that's our sense of decency in common culture, because this is, first of all, this is being done by a Mexican conceptual artist, Teresa Margols, or however you say her name. What's she got to do with Britain? I have no idea. Make your art in Mexico, mate. We should have British artists on the Fourth Plinth. Also, she's a former forensic pathologist, and apparently she once worked in a morgue and used to illegally smuggle out blood and materials to use in her artwork. She used to take blood and grease from autopsies to use in her sculptures, and was once given a stillborn fetus which she encased in cement. She sounds like a monster. Why on earth have we got some monster making a monstrosity for the Fourth Plinth when the thing that represents Britain, the thing that would pull in tourists, the thing that united us as a country, the thing that made us important on the world stage, and the thing about Trafalgar Square is it should represent the lot of it, was the Queen, who we are still yet 2 years after her death, waiting to see anything of any significance, you know, big, beautiful statue of Elizabeth the Great. This isn't just a missed opportunity. This is spitting in the face of British culture.
Well, you'd have to ask Sadiq Khan why he thinks this is more important. But, you know, he's very keen on all things transgender. I mean, the crazy thing here is that this artist is Mexican. She's talking about commemorating some trans friend who died 9 years ago. And the whole story of trans victimhood is that in Latin America, many of those people who identify as the opposite sex are prostitutes. And that is a very dangerous way to live your life. Men and women alike in sex work are indeed at risk. But as you say, it's really nothing to do with us here in Trafalgar Square.
I just think it sounds like madness. And talking about something that sounds like madness, this is the most mad thing I've actually read probably ever. And that is saying something. A British schoolchild has been officially allowed to identify as a wolf. A secondary school pupil is said to suffer from species dysphoria, and teachers are supporting the youngster. What are we going to have next? After trans rights, are we going to have, like, I don't know, multiple personality disorder? Everyone just have 50 different names and identities, and schizophrenia is cool. Let's all have that as well. Let's make everything that is basically a mental illness desirable and encourage everyone to just go along with it. I mean, this is, to me, this is harmful beyond belief. This poor secondary school child needs help, not affirmation.
Yes, and the real problem here is it sounds like a big joke, but it is happening. And what's happening is that instead of safeguarding and putting the safety and the well-being of children first, they're sort of taking an identity-led approach and a children's rights approach, and that really has no place in a school. You know, it's not about how you identify. Every single child in that school is either a boy or a girl, and sometimes that matters, and you have to recognise that. And by the way, we are hearing stories like this wolf story, and cat stories too, from all over the country. This is not as isolated as people might think. But because everyone's afraid now that you've got to affirm every identity, they're getting in a real muddle here where they're having to indulge this kind of nonsense. I agree with you. I don't think it's good for the child, but I especially think it gets in the way of proper safeguarding.